Glad to have you guys with me today. I don't know about the rest of you, but I've been thinking about buying a house, and then our economy was just like, ha ha, joke's on you. And so it's a scary thing. And I didn't have any good advice for you myself. So I went and found you some experts. And this is a topic that we're going to keep discussing. So today we have Ronnie Wilson, who is a mortgage banker, and Krista Freshour, who is a realtor. And so I'll let them introduce themselves and tell them a little bit about who they are and what they do. Ronnie, you want to go first?
Well, sure. Yes, my name is Ronnie Wilson. I work with People's Home Equity. I have been in the business now for over 30 years. There's always something new. And so these last 2 years, there's been a lot of new stuff. And then even these last really 2 weeks with interest rates, there's just been a lot of new stuff. And so I've seen several cycles. I've seen several trends come and go. And I think it's always good for people to stay on top of what's happening in the mortgage world as well as the real estate world. If they're looking to buy a house, whether it's primary residence, second home, investment property, you just really need to stay on top of it if you want to make sure that you're kind of maximizing your financial situation.
Okay, Krista?
Hi, I'm Krista Freshour, and I work for Honors Real Estate Services. We are a non-franchise real estate firm. I believe we're the #1 producing non-franchise firm in East Tennessee with about 40 agents. I serve the greater Knoxville area, both selling and buying. It is a crazy market. It's been just very eventful, I guess, over the last year. It is still a tough market for buyers, but we have some strategies that we can work with them on to help them find a house and make a successful offer and then buy their house.
Okay, cool beans. So I guess, Krista, does the process start with you or does it start with Ronnie? So if somebody wants to buy a house, they don't happen to be a cash buyer, who do they start with? What's the first step?
Well, I think it can go either way. If somebody comes to me, one of the first questions I'm going to ask is, what is their budget? And have they talked to a lender? If they haven't talked to a lender, then I will recommend at that point that they do talk with a lender, somebody local, and really find out financially what they can afford. One of the strategies in making an offer, and most sellers are requiring this anyway, is to have a pre-approval letter to submit with an offer. And that starts with working with a lender.
Okay. And Ronnie, what would you say would be the first step that you would suggest for any person thinking about buying a home?
I'm biased, but I'm always going to say that you want to check and make sure you can buy a house before you start thinking about selling your house or before you start looking for homes. I've seen too many times where people really kind of get their dreams crushed because they think, well, surely I'm going to qualify for a house because I've got great credit, or because my income is such, or because my friends qualified for a house. And there's so many nuances to everybody's particular financial situation that that's just not always the case. And so I always encourage people to at least, hey, check and make sure that you know how much house you can qualify for before you start making all of these plans to sell your house.
Okay. So Krista, tell them a little bit, because it's scary. I think sometimes there's a lot of realtors out there. And I think it's scary thinking about working with a realtor to pick a house. So can you tell them a little bit about what the process with you looks like?
Sure. The first thing I think is going to be to get to know the buyer a little bit and what are their goals. Then it's to find out if their goals are realistic. Usually they will start talking to a lender. Oftentimes I can make a couple of recommendations and they will pick somebody to start working with. Once they find out what they really can afford, we will talk about being realistic about what we're looking at. In this market, we are seeing a lot of homes sell over asking price. So it's a good idea not just to look at your maximum amount you're going to purchase, but down from that as well. So we've got more to choose from. And then being prepared, part of that's going to have your pre-approval, your expectations, and then you want to know what's coming on the market. So I set them up with an MLS subscription. And then I do some extra things. I do some networking. I know in our office, we network about listings that are going to be coming on the market. So sometimes if you can get in there first, if you can get in there early, you can make an offer without getting into some of these bidding wars that we're hearing about. Sometimes I'll even cold call. I will find people that maybe tried to sell 5 years ago that didn't sell, and I'll call if it's a home that I know would fall into the category my buyer's looking for. I try to find out how flexible the buyer can be. And there are things that sometimes will make an offer more attractive. For example, say somebody's selling, but they might need 2 months to move out. I always call a listing agent to find out what's important to the seller so that we can write a creative offer. Sometimes the most money isn't the best offer. It's more being flexible with what the seller needs. I stay in very close communication, and I really stay on top of what's coming available. And the other thing is, if something comes on the market, I get them in there immediately. I think it's important to get in there the first half of the first day if possible.
Okay, awesome. And Ronnie, I think you've got some nitty gritty advice on the numbers of it and how to make it work. So what do you want to say to the home buyer and the process itself and speak to the loan?
Yeah, really, I think Krista mentioned really 2 or 3 things, first of all, that I think are most important and that I just want to double click on. And one is just having proper expectations and knowing what you can truly expect to find at a certain price. Because a lot of people are like, okay, I am pre-approved for $250, but this is what I want. And if you have expectations that don't align, it's just not going to work out and you're going to get real frustrated. I think secondly, again, Krista mentioned this, is working with an agent who is well networked. If you are working with your hairdresser's niece who just started in the business and they don't know a lot of people, they're not going to hear about listings before they actually come on the market. And I would say at least half of the closings that I'm doing have started that way because they're working with an experienced realtor who has a large network and has been doing this a while, just like Krista over at Honors. So those are 2 things that I really want to encourage buyers to do. In today's market, and I'm talking about within the last really 6 weeks, what I would encourage people to do is if they have been pre-qualified in January and February and they haven't been able to find homes, that they may want to get what I'm going to call pre-qualified. And that is because if they were qualified in January or February, they were probably qualified at a rate of 3.5%. Well, rates have risen. They're now above 5. I'm going to use an average rate of 5.5%. What that means is if you were pre-qualified for a loan amount of $200,000 at 3.5, your principal and interest payment would have been roughly $900. Now at 5.5%, it would be $1,135, which is a difference of $235. That may be enough to unqualify some people. And so you don't want to go out there thinking, okay, I'm pre-qualified. And if your debt ratio is tight, all of a sudden it may not happen for you. You also kind of want to, again, this goes back to expectations. Know what your new payment's going to be based on the new rates. So this way you're not going to get disappointed when you write an offer on a house and find out, oh, wow, I'm paying, a $400,000 house, that's going to be a difference close to $500 per month. So I just really encourage people to touch base again with their loan officer. It is time to get back in the game. If you've been waiting in January and February for more homes to come on the market, I'm sure Krista can speak to this. Homes are starting to come on the market again. There are more homes out there. True interest rates have gone up. I would not wait for them to go back down. I don't necessarily see that happening. 5.5 is still a great interest rate as far as historically speaking. So I guess those are 3 things that I would add, Teresa.
Okay, great. So, and this goes out to both of you. I know, I work at InsureFit as a full-time job, And I know from my side of things that little things affect the ability for you guys to close. You know, like if it's an older property, it makes the insurance cost higher. If the roof is really old, it affects the insurance cost. If it's a newer home, it's less. And so if it's a brick home, it's slightly less. The zip code matters. So aside from insurance and taxes, are there other little things that can make the buyer's ability to be approved or declined be affected and make their cost change? Just like you were talking about with the interest rate. So the interest rate can do it, the taxes, the insurance. Are there other things?
Well, I can speak from the mortgage end. There are several things that affect cost. Your credit score affects your interest rate, which affects your monthly payment. The amount of money you have to put down affects your interest rate, which affects your payment. Really, the way you file your taxes, specifically if you're self-employed, you may think you're saving money on this end in taxes, but it's costing you money on this end as far as the amount of purchase price that you will qualify for. So you may think that you're going to save, $100 on income taxes, but it winds up costing you $20,000 to $35,000 on a purchase price. So there's just a lot of little, I don't know. There's a lot of give and take, a lot of pros and cons with filing taxes. And so I really encourage people, especially at this time of year, to kind of think about that if you're looking to buy a house and you're self-employed.
Okay. Krista, do you have any other advice for people that are thinking about buying?
Just being willing to be flexible if that's possible. To be the most flexible buyer can be one thing. Also, knowing that the property doesn't have to be perfect. If it meets your most important needs, the right location, the right size, a lot of cosmetic things can be easily fixed. And I think sometimes you have to go in realizing, I'll have people call me and say, I want a brand new house. I want to be in all Farragut schools. And they'll tell me an unrealistic budget just because I know what's for sale. Being a little bit more realistic, you can buy a house that maybe you can put $10,000 or $7,000 worth of paint and new carpet and new lighting, and it's going to look brand new. So being open-minded.
Okay, good. So I think I'm hearing both of you say, to set your expectations appropriately, but maybe the most important thing is to have a really good team of professionals backing you.
Absolutely.
Definitely in this market, I think it's extra important.
Okay. Do either of you have anything you want to add?
One of the questions that I get a lot right now is people thinking about purchasing investment property. And just like what Krista and I are talking about, if you're looking to buy a house, even more so, you need to be prepared and you need to ask good questions before you really start diving into looking at homes, especially for investment properties. And so that's, I just really want to reiterate, there's a lot of TV shows out there that make it look really easy. There's a lot more requirements that go along with purchasing an investment property. The realtors have a lot of more really competition in purchasing an investment property. And so again, if you're looking to get into that, make sure that you surround yourself with a good team of professionals.
And I know this is not just a plug for you, Ronnie, but you have experience not only on the lending side, but you own rental properties. And so you've been on both sides of it, right?
I do. I just kind of being in the business, it seems silly not to be in it. I'm all about real estate. I am biased. And so, but I do. And as a self-employed guy, I've got a lot of experience with getting self-employed people ready to do that and to really maximize their tax situation. And so I have a whole lot of self-employed borrowers who have come to me from other agents. Like, I hear this guy knows how to work a Schedule C, a Schedule E, Schedule F for the farmers. And so I really I'm a puzzle guy. And so the more pieces of a puzzle that somebody has, I really get excited about helping them out with that.
Excellent. Krista, did you have anything to add?
I will just add to that with what Ronnie said. I know I personally have called Ronnie for advice, and he's always been extremely helpful. As far as if you are looking to buy and you're planning to work with a realtor, I would find a realtor, make sure you trust them and make sure they're going to work hard for you. Don't shop around. Don't call this realtor to look at that house and another realtor to look at this house. You need somebody that's invested in you, that's going to go above and beyond and help you find something, because it's going to take a little extra. So.
Okay, awesome. Well, I appreciate you both. I may have you back on again. Maybe one day we can do a live show and then let people ask you questions in person. I know that that's a little more scary because people throw some wild things out there. But I do really appreciate it. I think that this will be a big help to folks because it is a scary time for people looking to buy.
Thanks,
Thank you for
Teresa.
having me on. Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.